is the attraction of one water molecule to another resulting from hydrogen bonding. Adhesion. It involves the attraction of a water molecule to a non-water molecule. Stickiness. The capacity of soil to adhere to other objects. It is estimated at moisture content that displays maximum adherence between thumb and forefinger. Plasticity. Degree soil can be molded or reworked, causing permanent deformation without rupturing. Atterberg's limits are the limits of water content used to define soil behavior. Liquid limit is defined as a moisture content at which soil begins to behave as a liquid material and begins to flow. Plastic limit defined as a moisture content at which soil begins to behave as a plastic material. It is also defined as a moisture content at which the soil crumbles when rolled into a thread of 3.18 mm in diameter. Shrinkage limit is defined as a moisture content at which no further volume change is defined as a moisture content at which no further volume change. Plasticity index is the difference between the liquid limit and plastic limit of a soil. AASHTO system. USCS system is a soil classification system used in engineering and geology to describe the texture and grain size of a soil. The classification system can be applied to most unconsolidated materials and is represented by a two-letter symbol. USDA system. It is also called as textual classification system. Compaction is the densification of soil by removal of air, which requires mechanical energy. Optimum moisture content. The moisture content which maximizes the unit weight of a soil with a constant compactive effort. Vibrovlotation. It is a technique for in situ densification of thick layers of loose granular soil deposits. Hydraulic conductivity. It is also called coefficient of permeability. The coefficient of permeability of soil depends on A. Fluid viscosity and pore size distribution, B. Grain size distribution and degree of saturation, C. Roughness of soil particles and degree of saturation. Flow line is a line along which water particle will travel from upstream to the downstream side in the permeable soil medium. Equipotential lines. A line along which the potential head at all points are equal. Flow nets are constructed to calculate the groundwater flow in the media that combine flow line and equipotential lines. Effective stress. The sum of the vertical components of the forces developed at the points of contact of the solid particles per unit cross-sectional area of the soil mass. Immediate settlement. Caused by the elastic deformation of dry soil and of moist and saturated soils without any change in the moisture content. Primary consolidation settlement. The result of volume change in saturated cohesive soils because of the expulsion of water that occupies the void spaces. Secondary consolidation settlement. The result of the plastic adjustment of soil fabrics. Overconsolidation ratio. Ratio of pre-consolidation pressure to present effective overburden pressure. Shear strength. The internal resistance per unit area of the soil mass to resist failure and sliding along any plane. Virgin consolidation curve. It is approximately a straight line on a semi-logarithmic plot as shown in a consolidation characteristics of normally consolidated clay of low to medium sensitivity. It occurred when slope is equal to cc. Coefficient of consolidation generally decreases as the liquid limit of soil increases and its range of variation is rather wide. Send drain is another way to accelerate the consolidation settlement of soft, normally consolidated clay layers and achieve precompression before foundation construction. It is constructed by drilling holes through the clay layers in the field at irregular intervals. French drain. It is also known as a sub-drain, a perforated pipe designed to pull excessive water from soil and away from areas such as house foundations. Immediate settlement caused by the elastic deformation of dry soil and of moist and saturated soils without any change in the moisture content. Primary consolidation settlement. The result of volume change in saturated cohesive soils because of expulsion of water that occupies the void spaces. Over-consolidation ratio. Ratio of pre-consolidation pressure to present effective overburden pressure. Shear strength. The internal resistance per unit area of the soil mass to resist failure and sliding along any plane. Virgin consolidation curve. It is approximately a straight line on a semi-logarithmic plot as shown in a consolidation characteristics of normally consolidated clay of low to medium sensitivity. It occurred when slope is equal to cc. Coefficient of consolidation generally decreases as the liquid limit of soil increases and its range of variation is rather wide. Triaxial shear test. It is one of the most reliable methods available for determining the shear strength parameters. It is used widely for both research and conventional testing. Direct shear test. It is the oldest and simplest form of shear test arrangement. The test equipment consists of a metal shear box in which the soil specimen is placed. Unrestrained slope. An exposed ground surface that stands at an angle with the horizontal it is slope that can either be natural or constructed. Slope stability analysis. It is an analysis which involves determining and comparing the shear stress developed along the most likely rupture surface with shear strength of the soil. Base failure. It is a type of failure occurs in such a way that the surface of sliding passes at a distance below the toe of the slope. Slow failure. It is a type of failure occurs in such a way that the surface of sliding intersects the slope or above its toe. Toe circle. It is a failure circle in the case of slope and occurred when it passes through the toe of the slope. Slope circle. It is a failure circle in the case of slope circle and occurred when it passes above the toe of the slope. Slope circle midpoint circle. It is a failure circle in the case of base failure. Method of slices. It is a method for analyzing the stability of a slope in 2 dimensions. The sliding mass above the failure surface is divided into a number of slices. The forces acting on each slice are obtained by considering the mechanical equilibrium for the slices. Bishop's simplified method of slices. It is a method for calculating the stability of slopes. It is an extension of the method of slices by making some simplifying assumptions. The problem becomes statically determinate and suitable for hand calculations where the forces on the sides of each slice are horizontal. Sarma method. Lorimer's method. It is a technique for evaluating slope stability in cohesive soils. It differs from Bishop's method in that it uses a clotoid slip surface in place of a circle. This mode of failure was determined experimentally to account for effects of particle cementation. Mihalowski solution. It uses the kinematic approach of limit analysis similar to ordinary methods of slices. Subsurface exploration. The process of identifying the layers of deposits that underlie a proposed structure and their physical characteristics. Auger boring. It is the simplest method of making exploratory boreholes which can use two hand tools. Wash boring. It is another method of advancing boreholes which uses a casing about 2 to 3 meters long driven into the ground. The soil inside the casing is then removed using a chopping bit attached to a drilling rod. Rotary drilling. It is a procedure by which rapidly rotating drilling bits attached to the bottom of drilling rods cut and grind the soil and advance the borehole. It can be used in clay, sand and rocks. Percussion drilling. It is an alternative method of advancing a borehole, particularly through hard soil and rock. It also required casing. Split spoon sampler. It can be used in the field to obtain soil samples that are generally disturbed but still representative. It consists of a steel driving shoe, a steel tube that is split longitudinally in half, and a coupling at the top. Spring core catcher. It is a device placed inside the split spoon to ease the sample recovery when the material encountered in the field is fine sand below the water face. Rotary drilling. It is a procedure by which rapidly rotating drilling bits attached to the bottom of drilling rods cut and grind the soil and advance the borehole. It can be used in clay, sand and rocks. Percussion drilling. It is an alternative method of advancing a borehole, particularly through hard soil and rock. It also required casing. Split spoon sampler. It can be used in the field to obtain soil samples that are generally disturbed but still representative. It consists of a steel driving shoe, a steel tube that is split longitudinally in half, and a coupling at the top. Spring core catcher. It is a device placed inside the split spoon to ease the sample recovery when the material encountered in the field is fine sand below the water surface. Thin wall tubes. They are sometimes called as Shelby tubes, which are made of seamless steel tube and are commonly used to obtain undisturbed clay soil. Cone penetration test, touch cone penetration test, static penetration test. It is a versatile sounding method that can be used to determine the material in a soil profile and estimate their engineering properties. Pressurimeter test. It is an in-situ test conducted in a borehole. It was originally developed by Menard to measure the strength and deformability of soil. Coefficient of earth pressure at rest. It is the ratio of effective horizontal stress to the vertical stress. Plastic equilibrium. It refers to the condition in which every point in a soil mass is on the verge of failure. Lateral earth pressure. It is a pressure that soil exerts against a structure in a sideways, mainly horizontal direction. The common applications of its theory are for the design of ground engineering structures such as retaining walls, basements, tunnels, and to determine the friction on the sides of deep foundations. Active state. The state occurs when a soil mass is allowed to relax or move outward to the point of reaching the limiting strength of the soil. That is, the soil is at the failure condition in extension. Thus it is the minimum lateral soil pressure that may be exerted. Passive state. The state occurs when a soil mass is externally forced to the limiting strength of the soil in compression. It is the maximum lateral soil pressure that may be exerted. Rankine's theory. Rankine's theory. Foundation. It is the lowest part of the structure and its function is to transfer the load of the structure to the soil on which it is resting. Spread footing. It is simply an enlargement of a load-bearing wall or column that makes it possible to spread the load of the structure over the large area of the soil. Spread footing. It is simply an enlargement of a load-bearing wall or column that makes it possible to spread the load of the structure over the large area of the soil. Pile and drill shot foundation. They are used for heavier structures when great depth is required for supporting the loads. Pile is a structural member made of concrete, timber, or steel that transmit the load of the superstructure the lower layers of the soil. Terzaghi. He was the first to present a comprehensive theory for evaluating the ultimate bearing capacity of rough shallow foundation. According to his theory, the depth of the foundation is shallow if the depth of the foundation is less than or equal to the width of the foundation. Mirov. He proposed a correlation for the net allowable bearing pressure for foundation with the standard penetration resistance. Med foundation. It is a type of foundation which is referred to as a raft foundation. It is a combined footing that may cover entire area under structure supporting several columns and walls. Steel pile. A type of pile which are generally either pipe piles or rolled steel 8-section piles. Concrete pile. Type of pile which are either precast pile or cast-in situ piles. Concrete pile. A type of pile which are either precast pile or cast-in situ piles. Timber pile. A type of pile which are tree trunks that have their branches and bark carefully trimmed off. The maximum length of this type of pile is 10 to 20 m. Gravity retaining wall. It is type of retaining wall which are constructed with plain concrete or stone masonry. They depend on their own weight and a soil resting on the masonry for stability, and it is not economical for high walls. Cantilever retaining wall. They are made up of reinforced concrete that consist of a thin stem and a base slab. This type of wall is economical to a height about 8 m. Counterfort retaining wall. It is similar to cantilever retaining wall. Its purpose is to reduce the shear and the bending moments. Non-biodegradable fabrics. They are called as geotextiles. Geogrids. They are high modulus polymer materials such as polypropylene and polyethylene and are prepared by tensile drawing. Degree of sensitivity. It is defined as a ratio of the unconfined compression strength in undisturbed state to that in a remolded state. Degree of sensitivity. It is defined as a ratio of the unconfined compression strength in undisturbed state to that in a remolded state. Bishop and Monstrance's solution, Spencer's solution, Cousin's solution, Mihaloki's solution. Which of the following are the solutions developed in the past for stability analysis of simple slope with steady-state seepage? Falcon test. Typical properties of sand. Ice smooth, wool roller 2, pneumatic rubber, tired roller 3, sheepfoot roller 4, vibratory roller. Common types of rollers that are used for field compaction. Types of rollers that are used for field compaction. Ice smooth, wool roller 2, pneumatic rubber, tired roller 3, sheepfoot roller 4, vibratory roller. Types of rollers that are used for field compaction. Ice smooth, wool roller 2, pneumatic rubber, tired roller 3, sheepfoot roller 4, vibratory roller. Standard procedures used for determining the field unit weight of compaction. 1. Sand cone method. 2. Rubber balloon method. 3. Nuclear method. Laminar flow zone. 2. Transition zone. 3. Turbulent flow zone. Regions found on the analysis of the variation hydraulic gradient. Coulomb's theory. A theory for active and passive earth pressure against an retaining wall. The proponent assumed that the failure surface is plane. The wall friction was taken into consideration. It was presented last 1776. Hydraulic jump. An abrupt rise in water surfaces which results from retarding water flowing at the lower stage is called 0.81 d. Depth of flow for max velocity for a circular channel having a diameter 0.938 d. Depth of flow for max discharge for a circular channel having a diameter d. Section having smallest welted perimeter. Most efficient section of an open channel with given slope, area toto and roughness factor. Critical depth. It is a depth at which for a given total head the discharge is maximum. Critical depth. The depths at which a given flow occurs with a minimum content of energy. E equals 3F dc. Min specific energy of an open rectangular channel with critical depth dc. Flow at lower stage. 8. The flow of an open rectangular channel which occurs when the velocity head is greater than half the depth. Flow at critical depth. Type of flow for an open rectangular 24-word channel which the scene occurs when where the velocity head equals half the depth. Flow is at upper stage. The flow of an open rectangular channel which occurs when the velocity head is less than half the depth. Network. Water supply distribution systems are constructed in the form of many loops and branches. More or less complicated an arrangement such a system is called HGE formula. The formula for velocity of flow in terms of hydraulic radius of a conduit and slope of the energy gradient is called Whittled perimeter. In any conduit, the line of intersections of its whittled surface with a cross-sectional plane is called hydraulic radius. The area of cross-section of the stream which it carries divided by the whittled perimeter of the conduit is called d/4. The hydraulic radius of a circular conduit having diameter d, flowing full or half. Velocity head. The difference between energy gradient and hydraulic gradient is called hydraulic gradient. The locus of elevations to which liquid successive piezometer tubes to any selected datum is known as velocity head. The energy gradient is above the hydraulic gradient equal. Diameter of the pipe increases. For any given velocity of flow, the value of friction factor F is seen to decrease as relative roughness. The ratio of the magnitude of the surface irregularities to the pipe diameter is known as friction loss in turbulent flows generally increases with roughness of pipe. Which of the following is not true for friction in pipes? V2/2 grams. The kinetic energy involving flowing pipes in which the velocities at all points of cross-sections are equal. Pipes. A closed conduit through which liquids or gases flow. Where? An overflow structure built across an open channel for the purpose of measuring the flow. Coefficient of construction. The ratio of the cross-sectional area of the jet OMO at vena contracted to the area of the orifice is called torsiony. The theoretical velocity of discharge from an orifice is the velocity acquired by a body falling freely in a vacuum through a height equal to the total on the orifice. This principle is discovered by orifice. An opening with a closed perimeter through which a fluid flows is an nozzle. A converging tube attached to the end of the pipe or hose which serves to increase the velocity of the issuing jet. Venturi principle. The increase in kinetic energy is equal to the decrease in potential energy of a flowing pipe is called Bernoulli's energy theorem. Neglecting friction, the total head or the total amount of energy per unit weight is the same at every point in the depth of flow is known as kinetic energy, elevation energy, pressure energy. Three forms of energy which must be considered in connection with flow fluids. Continuous flow. When at any instant the number of particles passing every cross-section of the stream is the same, the flow is said to be uniform flow. If with steady flow in any length or reach of a stream, the average velocity at every cross-section is the same, the flow is said to be steady flow. If the discharge passing a given cross-section of a vapor stream is constant with the time, the flow is said to be discharge. The volume of fluid passing a cross-section of a stream in unit time is called turbulent flow. A type of flow which occurs when its path lines are irregular curves which continually cross each other and form a complicated network which is the aggregate present the forward motion of the entire stream is called laminar flow. A type of flow which occurs when the paths of the individual particles do not cross or intersect. Relative equilibrium. The condition where energy particles of the liquid is at rest with respect to every other particle and to the containing vessel, but the whole mass including the vessel has a uniformly accelerated motion with respect to the earth. This condition of equals said to be is hydrokinetics. A study which deals with liquids that are in motion with respect both to the earth and to their containers is called hydrostatic uplift. Because of the water level on the upstream face of a dam, there is a tendency for the water to deep under the dam and escape at the lower level on the downstream side. This seepage is under pressure. It exerts what is commonly called reduces seepage flow. The effect of hydrostatic uplift on a dam are the following except product of the area of the surface and the unit pressure at its center of gravity. The total hydrostatic pressure on any plane surface is equal to piezometer.